The Supreme Court kicks off its fall term today, and it's going to be the first time the bench is full at this point of the term in nearly 2 years. Justice Neil Gorsuch will hear arguments in a full term for the first time. He was there for only a few arguments after his confirmation back in April. He made himself very comfortable right off the bat, asking lots of questions and writing his opinions as he wanted to. So Alex Miller joins us now. Alex is our resident SCOTUS expert. So you've been scouring through all of the cases. There's about 4 dozen right now, right, that they've already taken for 2017. And you have some insights on those.
Yeah, they're taking up more cases this term than they did all of last year, and this time the cases are a lot more high profile, and that's because Justice Antonin Scalia died back in February of 2016, and they didn't really want to take up cases that they could have a 4-to-4 split, because then inevitably they're going to have to hear them again. So this time around, they've got a full bench, and they're looking to make some concrete decisions.
A full bench and a calendar full of controversial cases. The Supreme Court will begin hearing arguments on Monday. Here are a few I found particularly relevant to some of the biggest issues Americans are facing. Right now, Ohio clears their voter rolls of people who have died or relocated. They figure out who these people are by sending notices to voters who have not voted for 2 years. If they don't confirm their registration and then vote for 4 years, they're off the voter rolls. Civil rights groups say you can't kick someone off the rolls because they chose not to vote. Defendants say they're in line with federal voter law. Next up, gerrymandering in Wisconsin. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg called this the most important case the court will hear this term. Back in 2010, Republicans in Wisconsin drew a voting map that allows Republicans to maintain a majority, both statewide and federally, under any likely voting scenario. The plaintiffs say it's unconstitutional partisan gerrymandering.
It can become this self-perpetuating hold on a state's legislature. States' legislatures are usually the ones who draw the redistricting maps every 10 years after a census. And if you, a political party in control of a state legislature, can draw maps to make it more likely that you're going to win, one political party can really entrench itself in power.
The court will also hear arguments between a deeply religious cake artist and a gay couple. The couple trying to order a wedding cake, and the artist, who closes his store on Sundays and does not use alcohol in his cakes, said he would sell the couple a cake but not create one specifically for their wedding because he doesn't believe in same-sex marriage. The lower courts tried to appease both sides.
The U.S. government said that there should be a very limited pool of people who can object to, for example, making cakes for same-sex weddings. You can object if you're doing something that really involves an expression, like photography or baking a cake. But if you're the limo driver, you're renting the chairs, you can't cite your religious beliefs.
Privacy law. Much of it was done between 30 and 40 years ago, long before cell phones were taking over our daily lives. This case revolves around a defendant who participated in armed robberies. Police were able to prove his location based on cell phone records. Under the Stored Communications Act, they didn't need a warrant. The 9 justices will have to decide whether or not they should have.
You don't have a privacy interest in records that are shared with another person, and that's the government's argument here, is that these are records that you're sharing with your cell phone company. In fact, your cell phone company is the one that's keeping them.
One final case I found interesting. Right now, foreign governments are immune from lawsuits, with one exception: state-sponsored terrorism. 20 years ago, 3 Hamas suicide bombers blew themselves up in Jerusalem, killing 7 and injuring 200, including 8 U.S. citizens. As we know, Hamas is largely funded by the Iranian government, so Americans sued Iran and won. But Iran never paid the $71.5 million judgment. The victims now want to seize Iranian assets that are stored in the U.S. The nation's highest court will decide whether the victims have a right to that property.
That's a really good recap, Alex, because there are so many important issues coming to the court. And, the ones that everyone always hears is what court watchers call blockbusters, that are 5-4. The key there is the 5 part, and one justice could swing this every which way. So retirements. People are already looking to the end of the term. Usually it's in May that someone said, or June, when they say, I'm leaving. Any retirement news?
Yeah, and actually that's a really good point. Most of the decisions are a majority,
It's like
more than a
80%,
majority.
yeah.
It's these blockbuster ones that really matter. So Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg is not going anywhere, even though she's one of the oldest members of the bench. Most of the members are above 60. And Clarence Thomas, there's rumors that he might retire, but again, he's a conservative voice, so it wouldn't matter all that much. The big one to look out for is Justice Anthony Kennedy, because he is the swing vote on so many of these monumental decisions, and there's rumors that he might step aside to make way for another conservative, but we know what a Trump conservative pick looks like. It's Justice Gorsuch, which wouldn't necessarily be in line with the way that Kennedy has ruled on many of these. So it would be a very big deal if he chooses to retire.
You know, I heard some people floating the possibility of, I don't know if you remember that West Wing episode where a democratically appointed judge and a Republican appointed judge both stepped down, so each party got a pick. Something like that might work out.
It would definitely not happen in today's world, because these justices who are not supposed to be politically motivated have sort of kind of fallen with a specific party.
Yeah, this is not the world of President Jed Bartlett. West Wing. Thanks, Alex. I appreciate it.